Devereaux!
I'm Mr. Devereaux.
What's that humming mean?
Beethoven's Fifth.
I never said I was more than I am.
Welcome everyone to episode 43 of Kiss Meets the Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Eli Clausen.
And I'm one other host of the other podcast, that Branton guy.
Branton looking very scary this week with the goatee.
Scarier than usual, if that's possible.
It's all thick and dark and...
Yeah, that's what she said. And
So-
I'm drinking out of my Deadly Grounds coffee mug that I got.
Did you get that at Hearstfest?
I did.
Cool. So, we're back. Obviously no show last week. Had a little family matter going on. Everything's fine, no worries with that. But that's why we didn't have a show for you last week, so...
Showless. We were showless.
Yeah, we were showless, and we
No
felt
show and tell.
felt like we were out of the loop, just missing that one show. I mean, you know, me and Branton got together on Saturday, and I felt like there was so much stuff to catch up on just because we missed on that one recording. So
Yeah, because we have a tendency to yak a little bit before and after the actual recording. Yeah, I know. Isn't that shocking?
Oh, and we went to a used DVD and music store here in my town, and we ran across the Iced Earth DVD. And wasn't that the best experience ever?
Well, we were fighting over who was going to buy it, and we didn't want to cause a problem, so we could just put it back.
Right. Well, I lost the passion for it, so I let you have it. So I just couldn't do it.
I forgot to get it, so.
So wow, definitely some eventful things to cover since the week that we've been off. Just so happens there's nothing really going on this week, though, now that we're back, but plenty to talk about that happened last week.
Except for the show tonight.
Again, yes, Kiss plays a show tonight on, as we record this, September 26th. Where is it, Texas?
I want to say Texas, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's flooded still down there or not. Hopefully not.
I believe they're playing in Chad's backyard, so...
Oh, well, that should be fun.
Yeah, it should be an awesome show. So yeah, Paul just tweeted out a picture the other day of him and Tommy and Eric rehearsing.
Yeah.
Apparently Gene wasn't there, but they were rehearsing. It was kind of cool seeing that, you know.
No, I think Gene probably took the picture.
But
Where was that taken? It looked like maybe Paul's house. Does he have a recording or a practice place there? I wonder.
it might be.
Because if you looked out the windows there, to me it looked like there was like an ocean out there.
It probably was. I mean, I thought they, were still using like the SIR studios or something, but apparently not. But so it's kind of cool, little insight on that. I'd like to hear a little bit of, what went down. It's always, just hear if there's any songs that they tinker around with that they won't play live. I'm sure there are. So I'm sure Tommy and Eric just start busting some out. And but yeah, they've got a couple gigs coming up here in the next few days, I believe, in Texas, and then it's kind of sporadic, of course, and then they head overseas a little bit.
I think they're playing at Texas Roadhouse is where they're playing.
Gene, of course, still doing solo dates. Paul has a couple dates with the Soul Station booked. So speaking of Gene and his solo shows, I guess we can go ahead and start with that, since that was a pretty big event last week. Obviously, the benefit show to help raise money for all the victims of the hurricane, especially the children that were victimized. Gene played, Cheap Trick, the Jayhawks. I believe there might have been a couple others, and then of course Ace jumped on the bill sort of last minute, but enough to cause a lot of buzz. And And of course, everyone knows by now, him and Gene got up, did 3 songs together. Sounded fantastic from what I heard on videos. And, you know, Ace obviously hasn't lost it a bit. He still has it, but, you know, don't get hopeful that Ace is going to be back in Kiss anytime soon. Gene's already pretty much shut that down since the show happened already. So,
Right.
although he says Ace has been in the band 3 times, which is not true. He's been in the band twice, but whatever.
I was trying to think about that too. He said he's been in and out of the band 3 times, and I was trying to place. Okay, he quit in what, 82,
Hmm.
and then he rejoined in 96, 95, 96, and then he was out in 2001 or 2003, something like that.
I think it
2000.
was like 3. Yeah.
Okay, so did he come back in when Eric was playing? I mean, he was playing with Eric towards the end there.
Well, that was when they brought Eric in to play those dates in Japan on the
Right.
farewell tour.
So he hasn't been back in since then, right?
No.
So
You know, when they did the Aerosmith tour, because, you know, there was that whole thing where the contract required that they had at least 3 of the original members, and they would have preferred it had been Ace than Peter, but Ace just was not interested at all. So they had to pretty much settle with Peter, the way they put it. But again, that was not. I was at one of those shows. The Peter and Tommy lineup was not my favorite at all. There was just no, meshing and chemistry up there like it is with, Eric and Tommy now, or even Eric and Ace.
that's something that I just thought of. We've done episodes in the past like what if this, what if that. What if you could pick like a different lineup that's never actually played together? I wonder what that would sound like. Because there's quite a few other variations. Think about it.
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think that, Eric Singer and Vinny maybe would have worked out good, and then like Eric Carr and Tommy, or
I think Eric Singer probably could have got along with anyone. I think it would have still been fine, because I think the problem was with. I mean, I don't know this. I wasn't there, but I'm sure Paul and Gene had the most problem with Vinny.
right. Now, say like, I don't know, Peter and Bruce. I think that would have probably went as well as Peter and Tommy went. I don't think there would have been really any chemistry with them.
I think Bruce and Eric Singer had I think they worked really good together, because
Yeah.
was it Bruce that said that Eric is a guitar guy even though he plays drums?
Yeah.
So
I mean, even Eric Carr, he had a great, chemistry with him too. It's, that's awesome. I don't know. Is there any other variations that are possible? I mean,
Well,
I guess you could.
you could go as far back and take like say Ace and Ace and Eric Carr never played together. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, Ace and I guess he's played with everyone then,
Yeah.
as far as drummer wise.
I mean, I guess you could throw in Mark St. John with any of those drummers. Well, other than Eric Carr.
Right.
But, that's kind of reaching there, I think. So, obviously there wasn't enough material with him. But anyway, kind of back to that show. Is there any standout moments that you might have caught in the videos or anything?
Well, the one part where Ace was singing the second verse of Parasite, you could tell that he don't normally sing that song. and Gene, I think, was smiling in the back behind him there when he was singing, probably because of the way he was singing it or trying to sing it.
Right.
And I wonder why they done that, just because it's Ace. I mean, because they don't normally do that. Even when Ace was still in the band, they didn't do it that way.
Right. Probably just, since it was his song, they probably just felt like switching off, kind of like with Cold Gin, they started doing that. And there was that funny interview where they were at one of the local radio stations there in Minnesota, and it was Gene Ace, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, and Don Felder from the Eagles originally. and they were all doing an interview, and Ace wasted no time, living up to his self. He made a couple of little jokes there towards the beginning, and he didn't quite realize they were on the air at the time. So it was kind of one of them Ace moments again. I was laughing my ass off, Ace and his jokes. And
well, like that interview that I posted recently on our Facebook page, the Creatures of the Night one.
Yeah,
he was, to me, he seemed like he was in and out of whatever he was on, or you assume he's on something because that's right before he quit the band the first time.
Yeah, and at that point he was already done. I mean, he just was
Even
pretty much.
He said otherwise.
Right. I mean, he was just doing that as a favor to even be in them interviews and all that stuff. And I think that maybe he was almost saying that stuff in the interview to sort of get under Gene and Paul's skin, because he already knew he was done and wasn't going to stay. So then he's saying all this stuff to make it sound like everything's great and we're all pumped up, and they're probably sitting over there like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, Paul kept looking at him every time that they'd ask him a question and he was going to answer it, to see if he was going to give the right answer or just say something that, cause, I mean, they've done that probably all along with Ace or with a lot of band members, but Ace, I think they really had to worry about. Peter too, maybe to a certain extent, because on the Tom Snyder thing, you see him a lot, but that's the first time I've seen that Creatures interview.
Especially at that point with Ace, they probably was afraid that he was going to, speak his mind a little bit about, how things were going and why he's leaving, or so they were probably, so they didn't want to.
And go to our Facebook page to watch that interview. It's about 30 minutes long.
Yeah,
and,
check it out.
They were talking about the Elder and how that, we didn't tour because we didn't want to tour. We tour when we want to tour, and we just decided to go out with this album. And I'm thinking that's a total lie, because they couldn't tour if they wanted to. They had plans on touring for the Elder, of course.
I don't think any venues wanted them to tour for that. I mean, that's why they just stuck to a few television appearances, and that was that.
But that's a classic example of how they've always sort of avoided the question by giving a generic answer, or they just flat out lie, because then people didn't know the truth, so they just took it for what, if anybody had seen that interview at the time, okay, well.
Yeah, if you go back through the history, and especially like video interviews, you can catch a lot of contradictions, from, like you said, stuff they'd say back then versus like recent years, or reunion era, whatever the case may be. Gene saying that Ace had been in the band 3 times and that's enough, and other things like that. Also, so as far as that performance, they did Parasite, like you said, Shock Me, and Rock and Roll All Night.
No smoking guitar. I guess that's because it was a last minute thing.
Probably that. Probably didn't want to give him enough time to do like a solo and upstage Gene and his band.
Yeah, because it was his band backing him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was more like Gene, and then Ace was a special guest up there to do those songs. And now that I think about it, I guess Ace didn't actually play his own set, because I haven't heard nothing about that. So I'm assuming he was only there just to get up and do those 3 songs with Gene. So
was that supposed to be the finale, or did Gene play after Ace left the stage, I wonder?
That was probably the finale, because if they did Rock and Roll All Night, I imagine that was probably right at the end or almost the end. I noticed that he threw Domino in the set. I'd like to hear how that sounded nowadays. A couple other things like that have been missing. But Ace in the radio interview that I watched, he said he pretty much contacted Gene himself. He's like, I want to help, I want to do something. And so then I guess that's when they came up with that. And there probably wasn't enough time or availability to, have Ace's band do a whole set. So then that's probably why they just settled on X. He just wanted to be there in one way or another, and I'm sure that helped sell a lot more tickets than what it already did to help out with the calls.
And what he said about Ace being in and out of the band and all that, I think that if they trusted Ace, meaning Paul and Gene, I think they would have him back in the band. But I think the biggest problem with him is, and based on the last time he was in the band, he started out really good, and then being on the road, I think he has a tendency to get into a lot of stuff that he would normally get into. So then that's the point, they can't trust him. So that the last thing they want to do is take him on the road. I think that they believe he's sober and, he's different and he's, a lot better than he was. But I think that's the main reason they let him come back in the band, because they know how he is on the road.
Right, and, I get the whole thing, like, he's already been in the band 2, 3, whether it's 20 times. I get that. Like, you only give somebody a chance so many times, and even though as they say, the third time could be the charm, even though, because this would really be the third time, but they don't think that. They can't help but think of the way it was in the past and assume that that's how it's always going to be.
Well, I think Peter was in the band 3 times. Maybe that's where he gets that from.
Yeah, Peter. Yeah. Peter was in the band 3 times. Eric was in the band 4 times, I think.
At least 3.
Or 3.
At least 3.
Well, see, that's the other thing too, because if they were to really take that gamble and to try to do that again, whether it's Ace and Peter or just Ace, and then it were to fail again, somebody like Eric, I'm sure at this point he would probably be fed up and not come back again after almost saying "I told you so." And now Tommy, I'm not sure, he hasn't been through that scenario yet. So whether or not he would come right back in or not, who knows? But I don't think it's ever going to happen to where we're going to have to find out anyway. But
I think that's a done deal. Other than maybe the very last show, it's probably never going to happen. And I almost at this point feel like that, the very last show, whenever that is, I almost would not be surprised if they don't even ask Peter to you know what I mean? Because how much time are they going to wait? It's not that I'm trying to hurry them up, you know what I mean? But I mean, Peter might not be wanting to do it at that, once he's been retired, because he's supposedly retired now, right?
Yeah. Now, I feel like if that happens and they have Peter come out, he's not going to be playing drums. They'll probably just have him come out front, kind of like they did at Unplugged for the first few songs, and just sit there and sing like Beth and maybe Hard Luck Woman, a couple of songs like that with them. But I don't think he's going to be playing drums. The only possibility that he might play drums is like Rock and Roll All Night. That'd be like grand finale. Let them all play like they, kind of like Unplugged again, where they're all playing and singing.
And I also think that he probably would not be playing drums, because I would imagine that they would be putting this on DVD.
I would sure hope so.
So they want the sound to be as good as possible. I mean, of course they're going to mix it and all that, but do they want to overdub the drums if Peter's playing drums? Because they probably would have to do something.
Well, they'll have to trigger the hell out of them again, and that's just so noticeable. And it just kind of that triggered drum sound doesn't fit Kiss. That's not.
Well, they're probably over that too. All the stuff they had to deal with to have those guys in the band up through at least Psycho Circus. Well, I guess through was it Psycho Circus? That was when did Peter quit?
Well, he was there. It was part of the farewell tour, and then he came back again to do the symphony and all that stuff. And then he was in that Aerosmith tour, and then he was back out, and that was it. But during like the reunion era, maybe Psycho Circus, like at the time, like at least like the sound of the kick drum being triggered, that was kind of cool, because it was kind of like the modern sounding version of Kiss, especially with the new album out. But now it's like that wouldn't fit to me. I mean, that's why you don't hear Eric Singer's drums
And you
being
know
triggered.
that video that you see from the farewell tour, Peter is almost not even really hitting the drums. He just
Oh
like
yeah,
he's like just doing this.
yeah,
You know, and I'm thinking, really? You know, I mean, is he that? Does he not realize that? Oh, you're playing drums. You sort of have to. you have-
right,
I
right.
mean, he knew they were triggered. I'm sure.
But even though it's like, I know me personally, I would still be playing as hard as I normally would, whether they're triggered or not. I mean,
Well,
and
how could you not be excited? I mean, that's especially being in a band like that, regardless of how many years you've been in it.
well, once he got with Gigi, that's when he started going back to his old ways, and he was just becoming that, you know, dick of a person to work with, and
Well, I think Peter was the type of person, like a lot of people are. You want something until you get it, and then when you got it, you don't want it anymore. And it's
yeah,
really that way with Kiss. The times he's been in Kiss, he really wants it, and I'll do anything. And they said in the reunion, the Second Coming video, he was working harder than anybody to prove it. But because he really did have something to prove then. But then once
Yeah.
he's back in Kiss and everything, oh well, I'm part of them now, and I get this much money and that much money, and he's getting the attitude. It's like it just wears off, and he just thinks that he's not grateful anymore.
and making weird demands with the hotels, and Paul even said in his book, yeah, at first when the reunion and stuff happened, he was working hard, had a great attitude, felt like the old days, and then once he got with Gigi, that's when it all just went out the window, and it was right back to the demanding crazy things and
Was
acting like
was that about the time of Psycho Circus when he met her? Probably.
right around there or close to the farewell, and making weird demands with hotels, and almost like he was trying to hold things over the band's head, like they couldn't do it without him, like with the Japan thing. And then when I read that Paul offered Peter to play, I think it was only going to be like 8 shows in Japan, and he offered him $1 million for each show, and he turned that down. And I'm just like, that right there, like, you got to be kidding me. Like, me, I would have been all over it. 8
Yep.
shows and $8 million, please. That's cake.
Well, see, I'm not even a drummer really. I play drums, but I would go and learn everything to do that myself. It's like, okay, I can play drums. Not that that would be an offer, of course, if you don't play drums, but I mean, I would have done it.
I mean, let alone the fact that you're in Japan, you can, sightsee all that stuff while you're over there. I mean, my God. To sit there and play drums for, I don't know, 2.5 hours at the time, a night for 8 shows, please. For $8 million, wow. I'd
Yeah.
do it. I'd do it for $1 million for all 8 shows. I mean, my God.
Well, I just wonder if he's the type of person that I mean, I know Ace's book was called No Regrets, but I wonder if Peter actually has any regrets about some of those type of things that he's done at the time. You don't think until you look back at stuff.
I don't know if he does, because as long as he's with Gigi, like still is, and he probably will be until one of them's gone or both. But so I don't think until that happens he would have any regrets, because he probably still thinks with that mindset, and you don't see him interacting with Gene and Paul like you do Ace. I mean, now that Ace has now worked with Gene and Paul on his most recent albums, doing that music video with Paul, just doing that live show with Gene, you don't hear Peter doing none of that. Not and it has nothing to do with he's retired now, because even before that he wasn't doing anything with them, and I don't think they wanted anything to do with him.
I think he burned his bridges. I think that's the biggest problem. And, Ace is just being Ace.
Right. Yeah.
And then when he was like on something or out of control, I think that it was still Ace being Ace. He wasn't probably really hateful and mean. But what I've heard is, Peter can be really say a lot of things and not care. I mean, from what I've read.
Oh yeah, there's times that he was throwing sticks at them on stage and, like aiming for their head and stuff, pissed off about stuff and throwing fits over, the sound problems. And
Well, even on like the Dynasty tour, wasn't it? He was like slowing songs down and speeding them up and everything.
on purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
But, and more so, like nowadays with anything, and why they don't want to work with him is because his playing, it's gone. I mean, it was pretty much not much. It wasn't much left there during the reunion and Psycho Circus tour, let alone how it kept going. And it's just, you go back and he can't help that really, because it comes with age for a lot of people, but it also kind of comes with the way you took care of yourself through those years. That has a lot to do with it when it comes down to that as well. But you go back and listen to some of that stuff now, and you realize how freaking slow it sounded. And then you listen to the way it's played now, ever since Eric Singer's been back, and it's like perfect. So Eric, that's what I love about Eric Singer. He's like that perfect tempo and the right fit, because with Peter, it was either too slow or sloppy.
Too fast.
Eric Carr, it became too fast. It was like killing you. Like a lot of the notes you wouldn't even be able to hear because he was playing everything so fast.
Well, I heard that a lot of time back in the 70s when they would do a show, Peter was so excited and so full of adrenaline that he played faster than he should. I mean, if you listen to Kiss Alive 2, I think a lot of that is really accurate.
Yeah.
Based on, I know it's overdubbed and this and that, but I think the speed of the songs couldn't have been but what they are. And I think, like the Madison Square Garden show was probably another one. The very first time they played there, he probably was playing really fast. I know that there was a concert on YouTube. I have to go back and look, but
yeah, I mean
the improvised thing too with Eric Carr. Those songs are through the '80s. They were really fast.
Yeah, that's a good example of how fast he was playing the stuff, and it's not in a good way either. I mean, it's like I say, it was killing a lot of the notes. It took away from the song at times.
Do you think some of that was Gene? Because I'd heard that Gene is under the impression that if you play it fast, it's more like a aggressive type. I've heard that. That he thinks. Paul disagrees, but I think Gene wants it played faster. Have you heard that?
See, I don't know, because at the same time he doesn't like guitar players that play noodly and sound like a bunch of angry bees, and then he doesn't like double bass. But so I don't know, like that just
it doesn't make sense, because I've heard that and I don't know. You don't know what's true and what isn't.
Right. And so like with Eric Singer, it's just like a perfect right in the middle. Like it's not too fast, it ain't too slow. It's it's all there. You hear every note. And
which is probably why that Paul chose him on his first solo,
right.
tour, because he had heard from numerous people when he asked about drummers, his name always came up. So once he probably auditioned him, he probably thought, well, this is the guy, no question.
And Peter back in the day playing fast. I mean, hey, that happens. You get it in a show, and
right.
The adrenaline starts flowing, and sometimes you end up playing a little faster than what you realize. And that wasn't so bad back then compared to the tempo that Eric Carr played it. As how fast he played it was like purposely, I guess, in a way, like he just did that. I don't know. So then, but like I say, fast forward to the reunion, and then on, Peter's drumming just was real slow. He was still pretty methodical there at first until about, I'd say about midway through the farewell tour. It's probably when it really started diminishing. Even when he had the carpal tunnel and all that during the farewell tour, that didn't help. And, just that, needless to say, all that, the drugs, all the drinking, all that crap, hey, it catches up with you over time. he's not the only drummer or musician that's playing slower, or not anywhere near what he used to play in his prime. There's a lot of that out there, unfortunately. So,
Well, if you think about a lot of those bands that's been around for a long time that plays that type of music, almost all of them have replaced their drummer.
right. I mean, I'm thinking of like Aerosmith. They still have Jerry Kramer, but same thing. He plays a lot slower now, and he doesn't do as much, as far as all the fills and everything in the songs that he used to, and like Bill Ward, when Black Sabbath got back together, there was such a big noticeable difference in his playing from the way he was a monster all over the kit. I mean, still is, but not what it was back then. And it was just kind of lacking. Like, I remember watch that Last Supper DVD, and it's like, oh man, this is awesome, but God, the drums just are a little...
He looked like he was struggling a lot.
Yeah.
He really did.
Yeah.
And I don't think his health was the greatest at that point either.
No.
He had like a heart attack right after that or right before that, something
like that. But yeah, you could tell a huge difference from that versus the old stuff. But the stuff catches up to you. Sometimes you just gotta, I guess, try to be a little more smart about it, I guess, in the long run.
Well, I've heard, when I was younger and listening to metal and stuff, different people would come in and it's like, well, what are these bands going to do when they get old? They can't play this kind of music. And it's like a lot of them actually are still playing, and of course metal is different now than it was at, what the bands we're talking about. But, and that makes me think, like bands that are current now that plays that kind of music, it's even faster than, say, like stuff from the 70s and 80s. So how are they going to be able to play that stuff if they're able to last as long?
Yeah, and a lot of that shit is so studio polished. I mean, triggered drums and, all over the place with that stuff. So there's a lot of, like, I don't know, cheating going on in that, I guess you could say, that kind of playing nowadays, that stuff you hear. But
I was trying to think of a band to use as an example, but I can't think of anyone really that's the current that plays metal that I'm familiar with.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a band called Infinite Annihilator, and you listen to their stuff and you could clearly tell that it sounds like they used an electronic drum set to do the drum tracks. I mean, it's just so, it's obvious. I mean, if you know what to listen for, I guess. But
right. Being a drummer, that probably helps a lot.
Yeah, and I've always hoped, like, once I started noticing that about drummers, how they slow down with age, and some of them, I'm like, I always started thinking to myself, like, God, I hope I don't become one of those drummers too when I get up to that age and become like the slow drummer and not able to do the stuff I used to do and all that. But thankfully there's guys out there that are close to that same age bracket, Dave Lombardo, and I guess you could say Lars in a way, but and other guys out there like that are still.
Well, Eric Singer is in his 50s, so
yeah, Eric Singer. It goes on and on. Even some of the jazz guys that are still out there, the old timers, they still play, as good as they did back in the 70s or whatever. But so that's always been one of them things that I'm like, God, I hope I don't become one of those when I get to that age. But so especially like what I do now and my original band, it's like that would suck to slow down and not be able to do that stuff anymore.
And by playing Kiss songs too, sort of, you could, I don't know if you've done this, but at least I probably would, being a Kiss fan. You picture yourself, okay, how would Eric Carr play this, or how would Peter Criss play this, how would Eric Singer play this, You know what I mean? Because you said you sort of play a little bit, depending on the song, you sort of go by a certain, you probably have your own style, but then being in a Kiss fan, you sort of have to do that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every song is like, I feel like I either do a mixture of all three, or sometimes it's just more, what Peter did, like say the Alive version or whatever. I guess it's either like what is more, I guess, the defining version of the drums in my head. Like when I think of that song, I think, oh, this version, the drums that were done this way.
So give me an example of a song that Peter played and a song that Eric Singer would play now, and what? Give me just a small example of like what's different. Pick a song and just something that comes to mind. I'm not real. I mean, I don't know what that would be.
Well, like Deuce would be a good one. There's like with the opening riff and when it all takes off. Eric does some different like little fills and hits versus what Peter did on the album, or even like live or whatnot. Different things like that. Little things like when it stops towards the end and it does that little cowbell hit, and then another bass slide. Well, Eric adds a little like cymbal hit, like which Peter never did.
What's funny, because since Eric Singer's been in the band for so long, and I've watched so much concert footage with him, I'm used to the way he plays, because there is certain things that he does that Peter never did. There's one part during, I think it's Love Gun, towards the end, I think it's right after the solo or right before the solo, he hits the cymbals like 4 or 5 times, right when there's like a guitar break that goes back and forth, and he's hitting the cymbals, and it's not like that on the album, and Peter never played it like that. And
right.
I'm used to it like that. That's the way I like to hear it, because to me that's better than it ever was.
Right. Like I find myself doing that part on Love Gun, like yeah. Like I say, I mean, I don't know, a song like like War Machine, I'll find myself in it pretty much for the most part the way it is on the album, but then I'll throw in a couple Eric Singer accents that he does, like the cymbal chokes and little things like that he throws in, and it's just kind of like, again, like in my head as the song's going, I just kind of think like which parts are more stand out to me.
Those electronic drums that Eric Carr had in the 80s, did he use those on certain songs that Kiss still plays, or did he just do that in his drum solo?
He just used that for the solo.
That's what I thought.
They all, each pad had a different note, and the way he would do all that together, plus with the drums, that was awesome. Neil Peart, does stuff like that too. And,
I was getting ready to say, is there bands that still use those, just for effect?
Neil Peart's about the only one I could think of. There may be some other guys out there that I'm not that familiar with that I'm not thinking of. Like, I don't know, like maybe the guys that are in, I think Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead, or whatever they're going by now, I think he uses a lot of that stuff, if I remember right, because I think I saw, video of one of the big shows they did a summer or two ago, whenever that was. But yeah, it doesn't seem like you hear a lot of that anymore. It's more like, especially in the metal world, nowadays it seems like it's, how weird of timing can you play? How many different time signatures can you put in a song? How many breakdowns? How fast can you play this double bass, even though it's done with triggers or on an electronic kit? Yeah, so there's just a lot of that.
Well, I know the electronic drums, a lot of that was an 80s thing too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like mainstream pop bands were using all that kind of stuff, and that was basically all they played. They didn't play anything but that, I think.
Right. I was just thinking of a flock of seagulls, like that video of them. Like that's a perfect example.
You're talking about Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that video. That's the very first music video I remember seeing on MTV, and I love that video. I mean, it's so cheap and cheesy, but it's like it's one that I never get tired of.
And then what was it? New Order, Blue Monday,
Yeah,
and then that band in the late '90s, Orgy. They did a cover of it, and I used to like that. Like if I sat down on an electric kit, I'd always have to play that little intro on an electric kit. But
that reminds me of that song, "The Human League." Don't you?
Yeah, yes.
I don't think there's any drums in any of their music. I mean, like real drums.
Yeah. It's all like
it's all electronic.
Yeah, it's all electronic or synthesizer. It's all a lot of that stuff back then. That's what it was. Other than like the metal and the hard rock at the time, that.
And even like I want to say like on Judas Priest Turbo album, there was some of that stuff on there. I mean, a lot of the bands, at least experimented with it, probably at least with one album, if not more.
Well, Van Halen, Alex Van Halen even threw in some of that stuff there in the '80s and whatnot. A lot of those, some of them tom fills are done on the electric pads, and I liked how he mixed that together though with the acoustic drums.
So do you think it's easier for them to do that because they have to reproduce it live? Do you think do they normally try, if they do it on the album like that, do they still try to do that live? Because I haven't really. I mean, when I think of Van Halen, I think about like the Fair Warning tour and right around in there. Mm. Anything beyond that, I haven't seen a lot of footage from, so I don't really, other than music videos.
Yeah, they would do that live. I want to say Alex still has a couple electric pads on his kit. So it seems like when I saw him back in 2012 that he had a couple on there to do some fills and stuff with his solo and everything. But I think of like Def Leppard. His ever since the accident when Rick Allen came back, that's an electronic kit.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he does use like real cymbals, which is great because that goes well with the electronic sound. But and he could play the it's a real snare, but then there's also the trigger snare, depending on what if he's doing a fill, he could still get that snare sound with his foot if he's got his hand doing something else. So I don't think any electronic drummer or drum playing can probably top what he does. I don't care, if it's this new metal stuff and the fast double bass and all that crap they do on the electric kit. Like to be able to do what he does and pretty much invented that, to be able to even play it that way while he's laying in the hospital. I mean,
well, I've always wondered, it's like if you have a limb and you weren't born that way, how do you not try to use it when it's not there? Because if he's used to playing drums with it, and then he has to learn to play drums without it, on a different kit that's made for just a one-arm guy, it's like, how do you not catch yourself wanting to use that arm? I don't know how you could ever retrain yourself to not.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like I couldn't even imagine what that was probably like, the hell that was probably like going through to train yourself to do that, and not try to use that arm. And hell, if you told me to sit down and try to play left-handed on a setup, I'd be the same way with that. I can imagine what he went through. It'd sound like I'd never played drums before if you tried to have me play left-handed.
If that had happened to someone else, they probably would have just gave up.
Yeah, and that could have happened. He could have just been miserable and drank himself to death or whatever, and they could have found a new drummer, all that stuff, but he was determined, and ever since, and it still boggles my mind too how he's able to do, like, say the rolls, because like part of it's using the hand, but then the foot with the trigger, like, to be able to get that time perfectly to make it sound like you're doing that roll. It's just, I still don't understand it. I mean, it's just amazing to me. And here it is, 30-some years probably that he's been doing it like that, but I've always just been amazed by that. And
I don't want to go watch one of his drum solos, just the Def Leppard footage, because
yeah,
I've not really paid a lot of attention to Def Leppard in general, when it comes to past the music videos and stuff.
mm-hmm.
Because I don't like the way they sound live. Even seeing them live, they were terrible. I mean, just because,
well, being that it was more recent. Yeah, I mean,
talking about vocals mainly.
Right, Joe Elliott. But other than that, it wasn't a bad sounding show other than the vocals. But I thought the music was pretty spot on still. I mean, again, a little slowed down because, as we said, with age, they always sort of slow down a little bit.
Well, that In the Round concert, that was from Hysteria Tour, so I'll have to go back and watch that one, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still remember, the music videos, before he had the accident, and his playing style then. And, even then he was still using a couple electronic pads and some of the stuff, like Photograph. There's that one little roll, it's like, and that's, electronic. And so it's kind of ironic at the same time.
It's ironically electronic.
Ironic electronic. Ugh. All right, so I don't know what else. I guess there was a little bit more news that we could touch about the Vault box set. I know we spent 1.5 episodes talking about it, but there's been a little bit more that's come up since. What is it?
Well, that's it right there.
I farted.
Well, it's a little bit of confusion, I think, on assuming on maybe Gene's part or the people he's got running his website for the Vault. I'm not really sure if the prices are accurate or if we're being sort of tricked into believing a certain thing. I mean, I'm a skeptical person, so I have to look at it from that angle. But I try to look at things from both sides to where it could be. I mean, maybe Gene. He thinks Ace was in the band 3 times, so maybe he's not clear on the prices.
Right. Now, just to sort of, I guess, get everybody up to speed, recently I had heard that Gene was on one of them shows and, promoting like he's been doing. And he mentioned that, no, the $2,000 box set is, I'll be hand delivering all those and, this and that. So then immediately I was kind of confused, like, okay, like, I understand, like, he'll hand deliver them in a way, but the house experience is what I think people were asking, and I don't know if he's comprehending that that's what they're asking about, or he's, like you say, he's confused.
And they've changed the name of that.
Yeah. So it's like he's like, no, I'll be hand delivering all those, and so I think he's a little mixed up, or his team is mixing him up on communication. Because then there was another clip that just popped up on YouTube. It was the Cassius Morris show, and he happened to get a little interview with Gene, and he asked Gene about that again, and Gene pretty much again, the $2,000 one is what it is. I think he said something along the lines of, that $50,000 one isn't even right or something, and shouldn't be on there, something on them lines. And the kid pulled out his phone, pulled up the website, and Gene's like, "Did you refresh that?" Or he's like, "Yeah, this is new." And then Gene immediately gets on his phone. It looked like he took a picture of the screen, and then he, I guess, sent an email or to his guys, and I don't know. I checked the
looked like he did a voice, like a
like speech text or something, but I don't know. I checked the website; it was still on there. I just checked it today before we started recording, and it was still on there. But now they've changed the name. Instead of the home experience, I think they call it the your party experience or something. Still listed at 50 grand. They still have the producer experience on there, and then of course the vault one for 2 grand. So I'm still kind of confused. I still think that those are all available and as what they say and what they are. But I think he's trying to. I think what it is he's just trying to sell everybody more towards the 2 grand version because that would be the most affordable for anyone, obviously, compared to the other two. So it's like, yes, I'll be hand delivering these, but he's not saying, no, I won't be coming to your house, but I will be hand delivering these to you.
Yeah, he seems to push, he's pushing that.
Once you book whatever date, for the meetup. So I feel like maybe that's the strategy.
He'll come to your place at your time or something like that, he said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's someone was saying it's like a PR thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is. I mean, of course he wants to sell these box sets, and he even said that. He said, something about the box set is what you're paying for, all this other stuff's extra. And I look at it as someone else had said, as far as you're paying for all this extra stuff, and the box set is just like a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it depends. I mean, to me, I would rather have the box set. We've said that already, but
right. Yeah. Again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but I just want the damn CDs and maybe the book to look at the pictures. That's all. If I were able to afford this 2 grand thing, whether they do, I don't know if they're doing like payment options, probably not. Or even if I was able to like go in on it with somebody, I would let the person have all the stuff. All I care about is just let me make a copy of all the CDs so I have the music. That's really all I care about. I mean, all that other stuff's just material stuff when it comes down to it. I mean, it'd be cool to meet Gene again on top of that. But.
Right. I haven't met Gene, and let's see. My thing is, and I said this, I think, on one of our recent episodes about meeting Gene, Paul, Ace, Peter, whoever I haven't met. I would be in such awe. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying I wouldn't want to, but to me, it's almost like I don't want to put myself in that situation because of me being me. I don't feel comfortable.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but it's funny because when I met Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, Bruce Kulick, it wasn't, I mean, yeah, it's cool because you know who they are and you're standing right there. But at the same time, it's not like, you don't hear like fanfare music playing, and I don't mean from the elder. But, you don't hear like, it's not a big build-up like right before a concert. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's not overwhelming, in other words. I mean, it can be.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I just really wouldn't want to put myself in that situation because okay, Gene's going to be here any minute, and he's coming to see me specifically. I paid for this, and and that's just too much for me to think about. I really wouldn't want to be in that situation. Now, a lot of Kiss fans out there probably think, well, then you're not a Kiss fan, But see, I have issues. Okay.
Well, that's a good album by Korn, but we're talking about the Gene stuff, so.
It's probably on Gene's box set.
And at the same time, that is one cool thing about it because you would have that one-on-one time for what is it, an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever for that, which is obviously a little different from meeting at like the expo where you get a few minutes with him. You got all those people standing in line behind you and everybody else. So, you know, and that would be kind of cool. You know, kind of like the experience I had with Eric this year. You know, being able to sort of chat a little bit and ask him a couple questions that you've really wanted to know about, and you know, kind of having that extra time. But you know that, and then just give me a freaking copy of the stuff on the computer. That's all I I just want the music. I mean, fine.
Well, I remember one of the Kiss concerts I went to, and I don't remember which one it was. You got the first half of the concert, the CD there, and then the second half of the concert, you got it was like a wristband with a USB, and you got to go to a website to download the other half. Do you remember that?
Oh, the instant live stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like why don't they do something like that?
I think it was all because of cost.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I think I have one or maybe two of those that I picked up. Like, I wasn't at those shows, but I picked up like the Cincinnati shows just because they were, you know, closer, and just to have them. And you know, and honestly, they're not the greatest sound quality either.
Right.
As far as you know, the mixing and everything, because you know it's pretty much just direct soundboard, and that's how it is. You know, it's not like they had time to sit there and mix it and everything too much.
I just wonder if they listened to any of those back and thought, "Oh my God."
That could be part of it too. Like this isn't really representing us as the way it should sound, and plus the cost is too much. And
Because, I mean, you would know this more than I would. They have a soundboard there, but to actually mix it, run it through a soundboard is not the same thing as mixing it, right?
no, because the mix that you get to make it sound good in the arena or whatever venue is going to sound completely different when you listen to that mix directly, you know, like through speakers or whatever, because it's going to be a whole different type of setup. So then you got to go in and
Some places have different acoustics and stuff, so.
yeah, so you got to go in and remix it to where it sounds good on your stereo, and you know, get it all right. So, you know, and at the same time, it's like with you know with these days where people can pretty much record whatever show they walk into now, and those shows were going to be out there one way or another. So it's kind of like, why spend the money and all that to sell them things to put out when people could just go get the show on YouTube, you
Right.
know, here in a day or two. You know, even though like us Kiss fans, like I know you and I would prefer to have that because of the packaging and all that kind of stuff, but that's just kind of the way it is nowadays, and it's going to be out there one way or another. Maybe it's not as good of a quality, but it's still out there, and you can still hear the show if you wanted to.
I was going to ask you, by the way.
No.
Okay. As far as like, I forgot what I was going to ask. Like a program to, like with your own packaging and stuff, you know, that's just as much available as going to the. I mean, like you were saying the other day, some bootlegs look as good, if not better, than what Kiss has put out.
Right. And that does go against the instant life thing, because you know those were sort of basic looking sleeves or whatever. But and yeah, somebody else could go out and you know I could probably look up that one particular CD I have and find a show where somebody has it online and probably created a much better looking, you know, front and back artwork for it than what that is. You know, so again, there's like that double-edged sword sort of thing when it comes to that stuff. So, but you know, it kind of goes back to the, you know, we've talked about stuff that's probably in the vault, or all this stuff that gets released by bootleggers. You know, the older stuff that I feel like Kiss could be making a whole nother fortune on if they were to officially release that stuff like that, or you know, even just release it on like, you know, iTunes or something that way. You know, video, obviously, if there's video out there, but I don't know. I guess they just feel like it's not worth, trying to compete with the bootleggers nowadays, because it's such a whole different scene and the way all that stuff is done compared to the way it was back in 20 years ago, the late 90s, and how much that's all changed. So
You think it's harder for them to track? Is that why?
I think so. And now that you have phones that have HD quality video and takes pretty damn good audio.
I think that's part of the reason that Gene gets so uptight about it, because there's nothing he can do, and he remembers the good old days, supposedly, about back when, I don't know, probably the 70s. I mean, even the 80s, really. There's not a lot of footage from the 80s unless it's fan footage, and it's usually like one camera, a crappy camera, real grainy, it's real distant, because there wasn't a whole lot in the 80s to mess with compared to now. So
Right.
I understand, back in whenever, he had full control, or at least a lot more control. So I'm sure and that's part of what this box set thing is about, really.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of that, I almost forgot, but I was listening to Podcast Rock City. Shout out to those guys. I was listening to it while I was mowing the grass the other day, and one of the guys on there mentioned that he placed the order for the the two grand version, and he mentioned something that pretty much answered a question that we had sort of brought up prior. I think maybe even on last week's show or the last show. He mentioned that as he was filling out, completing the checkout process and the order, that it came up to where you pretty much had to digitally sign, that paperwork, whatever, saying that you're not going to release the material on YouTube or any shape or form online. So that right there, I think, is how they're going to try to combat that. But I still think there's going to be people that they're either going to take the risk to put it out there anyway and see what happens, or there'll be.
Does that mean that you're signing your name, so they already have track of, okay, this guy bought it, this guy bought it, this person. So if that person has an account online, say a YouTube account, and all that shows up on their channel or whatever, I could see them being able to track it like that. But there's other places that it could show up that you're anonymous to. So
right, because you place the order online, bam, right there they have your IP address to know where that order came from, so they could track, keep that on record. And I think that's probably what they'll do. And if they do start seeing that stuff pop on YouTube or wherever, they'll be able to go in and see where that came from, and then track down and figure out which person that is. And then,
I'm sure there's ways to do it, and I can't imagine, say that someone does that and they do put it up somewhere and they get caught. I mean, could you imagine being in jail for that? Telling someone, "Oh, well, I'm in jail for, releasing the Gene Simmons box set on YouTube," whatever.
I bootlegged the vault.
I mean, that might not be a laughing matter if someone actually does that and gets.
But see, another thing I think of though is there's things out there, VPNs that hide your IP address from downloading that material. I'm assuming uploading too. There's things where it'll make it look, it'll put in a fake IP address to protect your real one. And I'm not sitting here trying to give ideas to bootleggers or necessarily promote it, but I'm just saying, there's.
The thing is, with anything, there's always been someone to get around it, and to the most trivial thing, as in a Rubik's Cube, people would take the Rubik's Cube apart, or they'd take the stickers off, and that's how you solve the Rubik's Cube, or you would just study it and then just do it on your own. I mean, so it's like that with anything. People will figure out a way to go around the system, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, and I think that there's ways that they're not aware of or thinking about that people will be able to do it and not get caught. And I hate to say, but I think it'll happen. And and I've said before, I 100% would love to obtain the music the legal way. I'd like to buy it one way or another to support it.
Well, it's like with the Kiss Rock Vegas thing. I bet there's a very small, if almost minimal to nothing, bootleg of that. And it's because it was played at the theater. It has a DVD and a Blu-ray. It has it's on vinyl. It's on CD. You know what I mean? So, to me, it keeps people from doing that. So if Gene would just release the box set in every possible way he can, then it's not going to be bootleg.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Instead of knowing, like, the inevitable that it will happen, and then you're going to pretty much have no choice but to put them out that way. Why not just go ahead and do it now and save that trouble? Okay, we're back.
And better than ever.
Empty bladders. So on that note, that's going to do it for this week's show. Anyway, let me think. Was there anything else we forgot to touch on?
Well, haven't heard anything else about the Atlanta Kiss Expo, or I guess I don't think is it called a Kiss Expo?
Yeah. Haven't heard too many other details yet either. From what I understand, there's at some point going to be some video of Vinny coming out to help promote it more. I'm still seriously considering going. Even though the VIP sold out, though, that's the only downfall about it. That I don't know if I'd want to stand in line for who knows how long. But
well, look at it this way: no matter how long you would have to stand in line, you would eventually get what you paid for before you get the Gene Simmons box set.
Well, that's true, but I just have bad memories of standing in line for damn near 3 hours to meet Robert Englund. It's like I'm not really a fan of doing that shit anymore.
Well, you can go to a drugstore and get a handheld urinal.
Well, it's not about that. I'll just piss down my leg, but the standing and kneeling and waiting in line, surrounded by all those
praying that the line moves quicker. Is that why you're kneeling?
Yes.
Well,
And
just bring one of those.
Not because I'm protesting like the NFL, but
bring one of those fold-up chairs and a cooler full of sandwiches, stuff to make sandwiches and drinks, and just do that. I mean, really. Put on, paint everybody's face like Benny's and charge for it. I mean, you can make all kinds of money standing in line doing that.
Yeah, but what if he does the same thing?
You could sell sandwiches. Well, you could sell him a sandwich.
What if he already has sandwiches?
Well,
what if that's one of his announcements is that he's going to open a restaurant?
You could have sandwiches with his makeup printed on the meat.
that sounds kind of weird. What if he announced that he's going to start making like caskets or something?
I think he is opening a new restaurant called The Invasion.
What if he announced he was making caskets or something, though?
I might have to get one. Like a pink one with a big V on the top of it.
People, you have to see Branton's car. It's turning into a hearse.
But it's in progress. It's not done yet.
We'll have to show a picture once it's finished.
And it's not a Kiss hearse either. It's just a hearse.
Not yet. See, that's what you need is a Kiss casket in there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, do they still make those?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking online at caskets, I think yesterday, and I can get a youth casket for, I think it's $400 and some.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah. And then they have pet caskets for, I think, $200. But I want an actual, not necessarily a real one, but at least, life size.
Yeah. Because kids and pets aren't alive.
Well, most skeletons, now this time of year you can buy pet skeletons, so yeah, I guess I'd like to buy a pet coffin and buy one of those skeletons at the Halloween store of a pet cat or bat or whatever, and put it in there.
But see, you could probably get the Kiss casket and get a free Gene Simmons vault with it.
I just had a great idea.
What?
They need to make Kiss skeletons.
Oh.
Like for Halloween. Like life-size Kiss skeletons with the makeup and stuff on.
Dude, let's buy 4 of those skeletons and paint them up.
I think that's a great idea. Now I really want to do that.
Yes.
I have skulls right up there. I could paint those skulls.
But yeah, so you can finally get a Gene Simmons vault and Kiss casket when you die.
I could be buried in the vault.
That's probably the only way it'll happen.
And be cremated and then sealed up in the vault with all just demos.
With the action figure of Gene.
Yeah, hey, why wouldn't I? That's a true Kiss fan.
Yeah, I could see somebody doing that.
Absolutely. Well, he said that when you open the vault, it has like a light that comes on and everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said that on one of those videos I watched.
Wonder how long that lasts.
Yeah, what's the point of that?
It's like, oh, let me open it up and use this light to see what's inside instead of just taking it all out.
If it was like a refrigerator, that'd be good.
You know what kills me is the people that are going to buy this thing and not even open it.
Right.
Like that anal about it. Like, come on. Yeah. Open it. Enjoy it.
If I spent all that money on it, I'd be turning it every which way but loose.
It's a good movie.
Or any which way you can.
There you go. All right, we're going to get out of here then. All this blabbing. So, we'll be back next week, and who knows, maybe something else will happen newsworthy by then, but, uh-oh. What is that? That's scary. Alright, now I'm gonna stay up all night and not sleep. After seeing that shit.
You were going to do that anyway.
Probably. Yeah, 'cause my tooth. Well, until next week, we will be back, and we'll have all the rest knocked off that we had built up from this last week. So,
we'll knock it off.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like the Facebook as always. Keep sharing, and leave some comments below. If anyone's interested in coming on as a guest or becoming a host, let us know.
Or a guest host.
Yeah, or a host guest.
Or a ghost with the most.
Let us know. So until next week, see you later.